Welcome to session 1 of Elite Business Builder training series. Of course, we are in level 1, and today we're going to start at the most important place, which is in the beginning, and that's figuring out exactly what you want and need in your life and in your business to feel successful. So today is going to be all about you, all about your vision, your values, your goals for the future. And we're going to actually have this theme continued for session 1 and for session 2. It's so critical that we take the time to write important goals that are actually internally important to you. And you're going to learn a lot today about internal leadership and about setting goals that are truly important versus just goals that we might write down, year after year and not really ever achieve in our lives. So we're going to use some of the recent kind of research, some of the brain science that we know can support us in achieving our goals. So to start us off for today, we're going to watch a little bit of a video just to frame our mind, get ourselves in a leadership point of view. So I'll let you take a quick couple of minutes to get in the right mindset to get the most success out of today.
I can do anything, be anything, create anything, dream anything, become anything. Because you believe in me. And it rubs off on me.
While if you presuppose in this man, if in this so-called criminal or juvenile delinquent or drug abuse and so forth, there must be a what we call spark, a spark of search for meaning. Let's recognize this. Let's presuppose it. And then you will elicit it from him, and you will make him become what he in principle is capable of becoming.
Why does he go to those extraordinary lengths? Because he has the right attitude, right? He was able to capitalize on his ability, not because he's some genius or, I think he's really, really smart. Is he Einstein? I don't know. That's not what sets him apart. What sets him apart is that he had a belief in meaningful work. He was willing to throw his heart and mind into something because he knew he'd get something back. And that attitude is what allowed him to develop his abilities in the way that he did.
And looking at him that high, here above, you know what happens? We promote him to what he really can be. So we have to be idealists in a way, because then we'll wind up as the real realists. And you know who has said this? If we take man as he is, we make him worse. But if we take man as he should be, we make him capable of becoming what he can be.
But I'm not going to use a platform to tell other people how they should live. I think people should live, and I think really people need to kind of be introspective and say, how do I really feel about this? Instead of just buying into propaganda or advertising or whatever. I think people just kind of, a lot of times we grow up and we're all, we're filled with the information that we received from our parents. We are filled with, in our rule system and our everything that we're filled with is the way we were taught. And until we start questioning that and backing up and going, is that really how I feel? Is that really how things go? Is that really? Then you start finding out what works for you. But if not, if you just are raised, in a way that you just buy into what everybody tells you, we'd be a product of what our parents raise us to be. And maybe that's good, and maybe it's not. It's up to you to decide.
And when you look at the lives of people who are really successful, what you see over and over again is this idea of meaningful work is embedded in their consciousness.
It's an idea that my grandmother always had, that if you're going to be here, then there's a necessity to make a difference.
The people I interview are so used to talking and talking. But when
I wasn't used to talking, I was used to doing more than little jumps.
Okay, but it's hard for you to show what you do in an interview, but you can stand up and you can make like a jump. It just, you know, it just
What's the
shows
point of
another
it?
side. It just shows another side of human being, you know, because everybody jumps in their
I
own
tell you
way.
what it shows. It shows that you want to be thought to be normal or popular. I don't have to say that or prove it. This has been my whole life.
So whether you're a counselor or a librarian, a teacher assistant, or work in the front office, whether you serve up meals in the cafeteria, my favorite, or help keep the halls clean, or whether you're a teacher or a principal, we need you.
The separation of talent and skill is one of the greatest misunderstood concepts for people who are trying to excel, who have dreams that want to do things. Talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft.
What did you do to my sign?
I wrote the same, but in different words.
Thanks, love.
Obviously, the question is, you know, today is today a great day to kind of walk into our next step in leadership. And for those of you who are with a group or in a brokerage, I know some brokerages are watching these videos together, I would highly encourage you to do an icebreaker. Make sure that you get to know who's in the room with you. If you're on your own, you can still make sure you answer some of these questions for yourself. So obviously your name, who you are, how long you've been in real estate, really important. Why did you sign up for this training? What are you looking to get out of the time that we're going to spend together on these videos and your time doing your action items? And whether you've registered for level 1 and level 2. This is probably the first time you're going to hear from me, other than maybe marketing signing up for the program, that it's quite crucial to take level 1 and level 2. They actually used to be one program, but we separated them just because sometimes people had timing issues in taking the full program together, because of course it was 18 sessions long. So level 2 builds on everything in level 1. It's where you get your advanced resources, you get your scripts for your buyer presentation. It's really a piece of level 1. So you definitely want to do both. So if you haven't signed up, you probably want to consider that. And finally, tell your neighbors or yourself, what is your commitment level to learning and implementing the training systems from this program in your life? And if you're in a brokerage room, I encourage you to share that. Share why you showed up here today. What are you looking to get out of this? And what is your commitment level? Because when we get into our values, our visions, and our goals, you're going to find that really your commitment level is integral for how much you're going to get out of your goals later on, but also out of this program. So really really, you're going to get as much from this program as you are committed to it. So I highly encourage you to figure out exactly the pieces that you need and make sure that you're implementing. So today we're going to be talking about both the art and the science. With us, with all of the training we do, all of the coaching, so any of the top teams that we work with, we worked with them from scratch, not just on the science, which is, the systems, the tools, the presentations, the scripts, exactly what to say. You need the science. The science is how you get the results. So sometimes, unfortunately, the science can be really misinterpreted. Sometimes people think the beauty is all in the art of our business, or the beauty in the world is in art. But really, the art is how we communicate, our passion for the business, what makes us get up every morning, how we care about the people we work with. That, without the science, could mean you're doing half the business or a quarter of the business. And I don't know about you, but I definitely find that if I'm doing well in business, I have more options to contribute to my community, more options to contribute to charity if that's important to you, more options to invest into my business, to take care of my family, to take care of my friends and treat them at times, to travel. Whatever it is for you, the science is going to allow you to expand your business and do more of what you love. So we're not going to limit our training program. Some real estate training is all about the science. I'd even argue most of it is. But you're going to find that this program is heavily weighted on both the art and the science of how to be successful in real estate. So what are we going to look at when it comes to the art and the science? There's a couple of things that we know. When you're looking at this diagram, you're going to see on the one side, we have active income. On the other side, we have passive income. What is the difference and why is it important to real estate? With active income, we can be an employee, right? So we have an employer, we have certainty, we have security, we have a base system. So there's some things that base income is what they're referring to. So there's certainly some things that are important there. Self-employed, we have that big, I almost said myth, but I'm not going to say that yet, but the idea of freedom, flexibility. We also have no safety net. Many got into real estate for what I call the myth of self-employment. This myth that you have an endless opportunity to make money. You have an endless opportunity to make money until you hit your cap. It's not an endless opportunity. Without systems and leverage and efficiency, your opportunity can be actually somewhat quite limited. And people don't see this when they get into real estate. When you're on vacation, when you're sick at home, when you take time off for the holidays, you're not getting paid. And on top of it, most of us do not have any pensions or backup or anything in place for our retirements. So self-employed can be quite limiting. It can be limiting as well because we're doing the trade time for money. So when I'm working, the business is all about me. I make a certain amount per hour. When I'm not working, I don't make that. So I get paid not what I'm worth, but what the job is worth. And more specifically in real estate, what the job is worth when only you're doing it. Because again, you're not leveraging to your full capacity when you're in a self-employed mindset. And that's the risk of it. You can be an independent realtor, but you still need to be able to leverage and be more efficient using resources like maybe social media support, maybe virtual assistants, maybe you're leveraging support in your brokerage. That's key to get to the business owner mindset. So please don't confuse this. When we talk about business owner, I'm not saying you own your own brokerage. I'm not even saying you own your own team. I'm saying you have a mindset of what the value is in your business that allows you to leverage others and allows you to expand far beyond your own personal capabilities. And this is where really all of the top production is done in real estate. So let's look at that. Passive income. Business owner is where the system is driving the business. The business is the value and the systems are always duplicatable. Do people, come and go into business? Sure. But more often, we actually take our tools and they come and go in our business. So 1 week we prospect, 1 week we don't, 1 week we write a great ad, 2 weeks later we forget about the techniques that help the ad to be so effective. Business owners know that those systems that get you success are exactly what will allow you to have a more predictable income. We need to leverage those business systems so we're predictable. We stay on top of doing what we know works in our business. And that's what we need. Why have a great presentation that works 10 times and then take a vacation and come back and forget to say half of the language in it? That's not a duplicatable system. But if we have a script, we actually can move forward and do that. And then we, of course, have investor, which is not our topic today. But the money is working for you. You don't work for your money. And many in real estate, hopefully many of us on this are investing in real estate. Of course, I recommend that you do, but that's a different topic. There are more millionaires in employee than self-employed. This is something that shocks a lot of people. How could this happen? How could there be more people who are actually millionaires, who have an employer, who are working in a position, maybe in a corporate environment, than self-employed? But in fact, there are. Because the self-employed dream is actually extremely difficult to do. Many people get burnt out, they don't have enough time for themselves, and they don't have enough of a predictable income to feel secure. So we want to really focus where you have the opportunity to have maybe more passive income, maybe more passive time. More passive time is where you can do the same amount of deals. Maybe you can even do more deals, but you're spending less time in your business. So is it a lifestyle focus or is it a profit focus? This is integral to everything that we're going to do over all of level 1. The other thing that you'll find will be integral will be when we start to use some tools about your personal capacity in the business. Because as much as we can give you, all the best systems to duplicate, if we're showing up to work, we don't have the energy, we don't have the passion, we don't have the enthusiasm, those systems aren't going to have enough. Basically, your business is the car, and those systems aren't going to have enough fuel to get you very far. So we need to make sure we're looking at this holistically, and this is just one little piece of the systems, the science that drives our business. Now, this is probably most people who take this program favorite quote that they get from working with me, and that is, education without action is just entertainment. So I always joke that there's many things that you could be doing with your time that are much more entertaining than coming into a training session, being on a coaching call, watching training virtually like you are. But the key here is, if you're taking action, then we're not just in a process of entertainment. If you're watching this training just kind of to boost you up, to boost your morale, to give you energy, to go out there and kind of sell a few more houses, I'd probably say that's not the only thing that we're looking to do here. We're not looking to just feel better. We're actually looking to build something stronger for you. So education without action is just entertainment, and that's not the purpose of why we're here. The majority of the coaching world, it does run on entertainment, but we're going to try to make sure in true coaching fashion, which is where I come from, that you get something out of this information. So he who controls his own thoughts controls their destiny. Really key that if we're trying to be powerful, performance is about congruency. So we know people who are very effective are very congruent, they have very high integrity, so they're able to perform consistently. It's not easy to get up and do prospecting every single day, or to get up at 5 a.m. and go for a run every single day. Those things take discipline, and you get results from them. So we're looking to actually align what we're thinking, what we're saying, and what we're doing, so we feel powerful and we feel congruent. So this is a good point for me to bring up. I could just give you the systems. I could give you the buyer presentation. I could give you the scripts, but that wouldn't be very congruent. Not of you and not of me. My integrity would not really be in place, because the people who are powerful with these systems, they not only use them, they believe in them. They understand the psychology behind them. They understand how they assist their clients, how they make their client experience actually much, much better than it would have been with a pushy salesperson trying to just get them to buy a house as soon as possible. So we're going to spend the time to make sure we do the right work at the right time, and instead of just giving you the systems, we're actually prepping our mindset as well. Okay, so leadership approach. One of the things that we're going to talk a lot about throughout Elite Business Builder is internal leadership. We're not going to talk about it directly every single time, but really when it comes down to our systems and it comes down to goal setting, it's all about the same thing. It's about focus and knowing what we want to accomplish. So internal leadership is looking at it that leadership is a choice. Taking an advisory role or a consultant's approach role in your business is a choice that's available to all of us. It's not something that we have to, stand in line and wait for a promotion. Really, the idea to be a leader in our lives and in our business is available to all of us. It's an inside game. It comes within our mental psyche, our thoughts, how we see the world. And that's just as important to condition as it is the systems and tools. Confidence, knowledge, and integrity in your role is a gift we must give ourselves. I believe it's crucial for our industry, for our professionalism, that we show up as true professionals. And that means that we need to have integrity, we need to have knowledge, we need to have confidence. We're moving into, I believe, the wisdom era, and these things are vital for us to actually have the ability to discern or analyze the market in a way that our consumers trust us. Very important. It's a complete mentality shift in our purpose, dynamic with our clients and dynamic with maybe other people on our team or other realtors within the industry. It changes how we show up and how we play the game. And personal leadership dictates how we interact with others and ourselves, again, within our profession. So this is that idea, again, that, you know, when you see strong leaders in whatever industry it is, I always like to use the example of CEO because I think it's easy to understand. You don't see someone get promoted to become a CEO because they're kind of applying out of nowhere. You see them get promoted because often for several years, they're already living, acting, and taking on the roles and responsibilities of a CEO. People who live and act and think of a certain way eventually fall into those opportunities in life, if they're available to them, obviously. So really important that how can we see ourselves in the light of somebody who's capable of doing the things that we want to achieve in our world. So we're going to build on that a little bit. That's kind of a bigger topic we're going to talk about. Anchoring your future, the power of belief and transformation. So how do we actually take an anchor and throw it out into the future and use it to course correct to go towards what we're trying to create in our lives? How do we actually create a transformation in our life without it being gimmicky? You know, I obviously am involved in the personal development world, but every time I go to say the word transformation, I almost cringe a little bit because I feel like it's so used to, you know, create systems that are just for profit sometimes, and that can be frustrating. But transformation in reality, when you see it happen, it's quite a beautiful thing. When we think differently and we can see ourselves differently, we kind of over time plant the seeds to build our life in a new way. So that's what it means, anchoring your future. It's actually an idea that I have the power to shift or to influence what my future looks like. And that might seem like a little thing. Maybe for most of you who are listening to this, some of you, I hope, are saying, yeah, of course I feel like I have an impact on my future. But I can tell you, I've worked with many people who don't really think that way. They think at first they do, but when I say, well, what about if we set a goal? What about if we take action? They're like, well, I couldn't do that, or I'm not confident enough to do that, or I couldn't overcome that. And let me tell you something, as they worked on it, they could, and they did. And that's the idea, that every time you set a new goal and you take action on something that you didn't think you could do, you're telling yourself again and again that you actually can create that anchor and you can throw it out into the future. And when things get difficult, you can course correct back towards what's important to you. And that's one of the most powerful things that we can do. If we're just facing obstacles all the time and we don't exactly know where we're trying to end up, a lot of people can get lost. And I totally understand how that could happen, but that's not our purpose today. So we actually want to look at what do we believe in and what does that create in our world? Because I would argue there's many different things you could believe in at any set time. There's many different ways you can interpret the world, and we all have those choices. So let's believe in what's going to give us power in the future so that we feel hopeful and powerful today as well. Let's look into how we can do that. So this is a slide I really like. You're going to see this several times over the level 1 series, even into level 2. We actually look at it a little bit. This is the NLP human communication model. So I haven't really gotten into this a lot up until now. You probably have seen my bio as being part of this program, but I spent a considerable amount of time and investment in order to become an NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, coach as well as practitioner. I'm also a certified American board hypnotherapist, although I'm not hypnotizing you right now, but I do have those credentials in timeline therapy. The reason I tell you this is that it was actually a massive commitment. It was about 110 hours committed just to be able to get the tools and resources, plus read 5 books and listen to 20 different audio CDs twice before I took the exam. And I did that because I want you to have access, not to all of NLP, but I want you to have access to what's going to help you in your lives and in the real estate business specifically. Okay, so this is a NLP human communication model. And again, NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. So what that means, NLP essentially is a study of excellence. So it's saying if one person can communicate in an excellent way, or one person can be successful, how can we study their mindset or their attributes or their habits? How do we do that? It's also the understanding that what we say means something. How we use our language creates meaning for us, and that creates how we interpret the world. So language is very, very important. So what we see with the human communication model is that actually, even with language, we're actually deleting, distorting, and generalizing the majority of information around us. For example, some of you right now might be watching this video in, quiet office. You might have no distractions whatsoever. You'll have an ability probably to take on more of my language, more of the examples, more of the video. You'll have more time to think about that and process. Some of you may have, kids around, you may be at a busy office in a kind of open cubicle style setting. It might be more difficult for you without headphones to take this in. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that each and every one of us actually have 2 million bits of data, of information coming at us every single second. So I'm going to say that again, 2 million bits of information, data coming at us, bytes of information every single second. So that could be the color in the room, that could be the lighting, it could be the tone of my voice, it could be, assessing what I'm wearing, what other people in the room are wearing. You're going to take completely different things from a conversation. And here's what's really cool. How's your brain going to decide what to take? Because you get 2 million bits every single second, but guess how many you actually are consciously aware of? 134. So every second, 2 million bits of data comes towards us. Our brain's job is to delete, distort, and generalize to get what's most important to us. And how do you think our brain decides what's most important to us? Based on what we believe in, based on our past experiences, based on what mood I'm in. If I'm in a bad mood and I'm slouching and I didn't exercise today, I'm not feeling good, my brain's probably going to be interpreting a little bit more negative, and we'll talk about why that is in a moment. So really important, some of you maybe showed up today because you've known some of our clients, you know our track record, you know some of our success stories, you know that what we're doing is relevant today. It's actually helping people build business today. You might be taking this a lot more seriously. You might be taking extra notes. You will actually get much more out of this training based on how you prepped your mind, because your brain and your beliefs are actually sifting and sorting all the information around you at all times. So it's really important to be aware of that. So we're deleting, distorting, and generalizing. We're also going to delete, distort, and generalize based on these words. This says VACOG, if you can see it on the slide, and that stands for visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. We won't deal with the last two because that is taste and smell, but your clients will be processing everything you say based on their learning style and their communication style. Some of your clients are visual, some are auditory, some are kinesthetic, some are actually auditory digital, which is like encyclopedia. They need so much detail to make a decision. We'll actually find out what type you are within this training series. And I will tell you that if you're visual, you probably have a really visual listing presentation. You probably have very visual aids to help you with your clients and help you explain things. Unfortunately, if you're a visual talking to an auditory, you might have a little bit of difficulty because even though you may both be speaking English or whatever language you are speaking, you're actually speaking different versions of it. And that's for another session in the future. So we won't get into that as much now. But again, just to explain this so we understand it, 2 million bits coming at us every single second. We have 134 that we retain. Of that, we actually only get 7 chunks plus or minus 2. So it's like, what are these chunks? What does that mean? Basically, if you were going to write an essay and the teacher said to you, you're a child, and the teacher said to you that you could have 7 paragraphs, 7 subtopics, that's what your brain can do. So some of us can go all the way up to 9. So we can take our 134 bits and categorize it in 9 different chunks. Some of us can only go up to 5. What does this tell us? Some of us need much more detail to be able to make decisions and understand. Some people are much bigger picture thinkers. They don't need as much detail to do that. So once we have that information, what's going to happen is you're going to have an internal representation. And all that means is you decide, is it good, is it bad, or is it neutral? That's your decision. People could look at the same picture. One person thinks it's disgusting, another person thinks it's fantastic. That's based on their beliefs. That's an internal representation. I'm not judging, it doesn't matter at this point who's right or wrong. We're talking about how your brain is working. So your internal representation is going to say it's good, it's bad, or it's neutral. And it's going to mix with our physiology, which is our body, and that's going to create a state. So really interesting when we're talking about vision, values, and goals is that there's 2 key ways to influence our state, right? Our state of mind or our overall state as people at the moment. One is our physiology. I can exercise, I can do power poses, right? There's some great TED Talks on power poses, and it is actually true. The more that I'm altering my physical state to be positive, the more that I have chemistry that's positive that impacts how I see my world. If I'm slumped over and I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and I'm telling myself I'm tired, the same thing happens. My body's going to respond to my beliefs. The other way is through impacting my mindset. So things like meditation, focused thought, for some of us prayer, right? Those are the other things that influence our state. So this is going to be really important with what we're focusing on today, because it is about visions and values. So we will get into the NLP communication model more, but I would say it's a pretty powerful technique to understand why there's miscommunications in our world. Why, when I talk to my son, he might hear one thing and I hear another thing, because I have one intention, to keep him safe and healthy and have good grades and make sure he's a responsible adult. And he has another focus. He wants good grades as well, but he might want to go out and have fun. So when he's talking to me, he's looking for what he wants. When I'm talking to him, I'm looking for what I want. And we actually all are, without even realizing it. So it's a great chance for us to get in tune with what are our beliefs, what are our intentions. So what we want to do is exactly what this slide is showing us. It's a little bit fuzzy on purpose, because we want to take our goals and make them crystal clear. And we want to take all the other noise that's around us, getting in the way of us achieving our goals, and leave it kind of in our periphery. It's still there, we're still aware of it, but we're not focusing on it. So how do we get crystal clear goals that we actually care about? That's what today is going to be focused on. So some of you are watching this training program, I know, as a group, within a brokerage, or maybe some people have gotten together to take this together. I think it's important to talk about covert saboteur. And covert because most people who are sabotaging training sessions or sabotaging their own success, they aren't aware of it. They're not doing it intentionally. Most people have really good excuses or reasons for not succeeding. And trust me, as a coach for many, many years, full-time, all day long, being on the phone with realtors, much like yourself, trying to grow their business, unfortunately, this is really true. Sometimes people are arguing more for their excuses or reasons for not succeeding than they're arguing for their actual opportunity to succeed, which is kind of frustrating, but sometimes we don't see it in ourselves. So in this training, really important, we want to give up arguing for our own limitations. It doesn't matter. You can look at one side, you can look one way or the other, right? If one way is towards what you want and one way is trying to avoid what you don't want, you can't look in both directions at once. So we're encouraging you to actually look at what you want instead of focusing all your attention and excuses on why you can't have it. So again, we're asking you to take a little bit of a different viewpoint on your business. Give up arguing for your own limitations, and we don't care about your excuses for not having your life the way you want it. Now, be careful with hearing what I'm saying. We don't care about your excuses for not having your life the way you want it. That's not the way I want you to have your life, or the way other people around you want you to have your life. We're talking about what you want, your vision, your picture, your priorities. Okay, so it's your own personal definition of success. It doesn't mean necessarily money or, real estate awards. It could mean health. It could mean community contribution. It's whatever it is for you. So that's very important. That's what today is all about. So and actually, in case you are in a group, just to explain, often when we're doing this live in group settings, if somebody's unsure, they're like, I don't really know why Kathleen's bringing the NLP into this, or I don't know, she does a lot of mindset stuff. I don't know if I believe in that. First of all, take what works for you. If you really don't agree with something I'm saying, I'm good with that. I think the world is mass. I'm good with contradictions. That's all good with me. If you can just be open and take what works for you, that's fantastic. But if you're feeling like, I don't know if this is working for me, unfortunately, as humans, what we tend to do is we tend to recruit, right? So all of a sudden, the person beside me is going, wow, this is really great. Like, I feel like I could use some of these tools. I feel like I'm actually going to try. And you're like, I don't think this works. I talked to somebody who took this a long time ago, and I don't think they got the level of success. All of a sudden, you're actually influencing their mindset, and you're giving them one of those filters to delete, distort, and generalize. So I'd highly recommend, if you have concerns about the program, if you're with your broker, talk to your broker, talk to the manager, whoever's with you in the training, or feel free to contact us directly. But really try not to be a covert saboteur with other people who are training with you, because they may be at a completely different place. I've read books several times in my life, and I can say there's some books I put down and thought were complete garbage. I read them 10 years ago, and I was almost like, wow, I can't even believe myself. I tell the story now, I feel bad about it, but with my ex-husband, I actually sold his Tony Robbins videos at the garage sale because I didn't understand what they were. And anyone who knows me now would be like, wow, why would I have done that? I would have shared it, I would have watched it. But I wasn't at a place in my life where I understood that. I wasn't open to mindset. I wasn't as positive. I had things limiting how I saw the world. So I did something that now I would look back and think he must have been so frustrated with me because I just didn't know what I didn't know. But unfortunately, thank goodness, he had already watched them. He had other books. I didn't influence him in a negative way, but I might have influenced somebody else who needed those resources. So now I'm very careful about how I put my beliefs out into the world. So if you have concerns, reach out to us. We're the people to talk to, and let the other people in the room be as successful as they possibly can be. Sorry, I'm clicking back. So with that being said, we're done talking about covert saboteurs, and sometimes covert saboteurs ourselves. I don't know about you, but I certainly have sabotaged lots of opportunities in my life without even realizing it. So this is why the techniques, the mindsets we're talking about today have really helped me in my life to be more aware, to be more open, not to, get a big opportunity and ruin it because I'm not sure about it. Really, these are the techniques that help me to be able to be confident and move forward in the things that I believe I'm meant to do in my life. And I want to support you in that for yours. So one thing we know is that, again, we want congruence here. We want integrity. So where does it all start? And for most of us as humans, it starts in our mind. So great leaders see and then they do. Some of our strong personalities, they just do, which isn't always as great because they don't always have a connected plan. So great leaders see first. And when I mean see, maybe they see something they want to replicate, but they see it in their mind and then they do. Every idea begins as a thought. And your belief in the certainty of achieving a thought always dictates your level of action. We're going to talk about this a little bit more, and that's really important. Your belief or your certainty in being able to achieve something is going to dictate your level of action. There are some things that you can do today that you couldn't do 10 years ago, not because you weren't capable, because you didn't believe you were capable. You weren't certain enough to risk taking the time, investing the money, investing the energy into it yet. Right? So we want to work on that certainty so you're ready to take action sooner. This is one of the quotes that I worked with actually in my first ever coaching presentation, and it's from Alice in Wonderland, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory why it's great for this particular training. So it goes like this: would you tell me please which way I ought to go from here? That depends a good deal on where you want to get to, said the cat. I don't much care where, said Alice. Then it doesn't matter which way you go, said the cat. So long as I get somewhere, Alice added as an explanation. Oh, you're sure to do that, said the cat. If you only walk long enough, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And essentially, that's what today's all about. Before we run into all the systems again, do we know where we're going? Do we know why? Because I can tell you with clients, one of the most important roles I have is to cast a vision of where they could go next. They don't always necessarily know the next step. But sometimes I do. I know, hey, if you get 2 more agents and they're doing well, we can probably get an ISA. Hey, you might be at the point of expanding and having your own team location. My job is to constantly plant seeds of the roads they could take, because when they're excited about those roads, guess what happens? They'll do the work. They'll take the time. They'll do what they need to do because they see where they're going. And you need that. We all need that. So today in your life, this is about figuring out, what do I care about enough to take action and invest my time and energy to actually get somewhere? Because people don't do anything because they, don't have the ability. They don't do it because they don't have the energy to drive. Essentially, they don't care enough to do it. It doesn't matter enough for them to do something to make more money or have more travel time, whatever it is, right? Or write that book. Not that they don't have the capability for most. So the mind, we know that it all starts with a vision. So what do we need to know to actually start to do some work in our workbook on this? We're getting close to this. There's a lot of mindset to prep us today. So first of all, we know neuroscientists estimate that between 90 to 95% of all mental and emotional activity occurs outside of the conscious mind. So this tells us that the majority of the systems that are operating, it's kind of like if you remember when they first got computers and all of it was the, I'm going to forget the actual name of how it ran, but anyways, all of it was the initial system. So it wasn't user friendly like now. It wasn't actually a software system. So it was very, very difficult. So what happens with us is it's like we've got these systems that are so embedded in us since we are young, they're running the show and we don't even realize it. We don't realize why we're happy, why we're upset, why we feel, determined to achieve something. We don't really know where it comes from. And we don't take the time to break it down. But that's where the majority of our energy is actually going. 90-95% of our mental and emotional is happening outside of our conscious mind. So how can we bridge that gap? That's the key. Your mind cannot differentiate between a vision, imagination, and reality. It's all the same, or a symbol, right? It's the same. So we know it's a very powerful technique. Visualization is unbelievably powerful, akin to, of course, meditation, right? Another way that we can alter our state. Creation starts in the mind, and hope for the future is what's going to give us power in the present. So really think about that. If you're feeling down, you're feeling tired, you're not feeling as motivated, what is it that you're really excited for in the future? What is it that you're working towards? That's going to give you hope today. That's what legacies are built on, right? Something that they need for the future, they're excited about. You can have two choices. In the world, there's not too many people who are true visionaries. And sometimes I've said this on podcasts, and they've said, the people I know who have created new products, new systems, new technology, they haven't been visionaries, and they weren't even trying to be. And they had a good point. They said, they had a problem, they were trying to solve it, and they needed the technology, the software, whatever it was, to solve the problem, which for sure may be true. And what we know is that most people have two options. Number one, there's not that many of us who have full, visions of something that doesn't exist in our world. There's not too many people who are interested in that side. There are some. Then there are some people who want to create something that doesn't exist, who have visions of the world that aren't in place right now, right? Like our Steve Jobs, of course, always gets named, Elon Musk, I said the name wrong, but regardless. But these people who see amazing innovations that can happen in our lifetime that can highly change our world, our society. But for most of us, the problem is that if you try to approach that type of innovation, that type of visionary thinking in real estate, you're going to often come up very short. And here's why. We're in the age of intellectual property, which means that there are many people who have done what we're trying to do for almost all of us. And society is moving so very quickly that you only have a couple of options here. You can try to recreate the wheel your whole career only to find out that somebody's already done 50 different versions better than you, or you can invest to know what others already know. You can invest to learn that. You can invest to understand it. And then once you get to the top of the mountain, which is, okay, I know everything that's in my line of work or what I'm trying to achieve, I know everything that there is to know. From the best minds, from the people who have done the research, from the people who have invested time and money that we probably can't even fathom, really, to get those kind of results. Once we've learned all of that, we can truly be at the top of the mountain and create something that doesn't exist. There's a quote that says, "We see far on the shoulders of giants." And intellectual property is the giants of our present time. So you have the ability, like you are now, to plug into training and learn what others know, what others spent, again, massive amounts of time and money to be able to understand and implement into their business. So you can model success, which means, again, I can find somebody who knows how to do it. And if they can do it well, and I actually learn from them, and really important, doesn't mean you get their playbook. Everybody thinks, buy the book, buy the system, get their playbook. No, you need to understand, how did they see the playbook? How did they interpret it? What were the nuances? How did they actually roll this out? That's what we need to know, as well as the playbook. Then you can model success. And those are options. So for most of us today, I would challenge you and say, is there already somebody doing what you want to do? Do you have the capability of modeling them? Because that's easy. Hey, if I were them, what would they do? What would they think? What would they invest in if they were at my state in building their business? That's available to all of us. And potential or belief is going to determine our actions. I've already talked about this a little bit. The shift happens in our head. So once we start to believe it in our mind, that's when we become certain enough that we take action. And there's some stories I'll definitely tell about this as you get into the live part of the training series, but there's a massive ability to have power when you actually believe in something and feel it to be real, even if others don't see it around you. I give the example that at my prior training company, I spent probably years nurturing the mindset until it was at the point where it's like, I own this company. I create all the content for this company. I alter the content. I create new systems. I'm running this company. And if I don't own half of it, I'm leaving. And I can tell you it was quite a shock, but by the time I nurtured it every day, every morning I visualized, every day I focused on it. I had a whole affirmation for it. By the time I actually showed up to the meeting, I was so detached from the outcome because inside me, I already knew. And it was like, if it doesn't match, I'm just going to leave because I already know where my head's at. I'm already resolved. There's nothing that can happen. And it gave me tremendous power because I had no attachment to it. It just was in me, and I knew it had to match my outside world. And in the end, I did get 50% of that company, and I did turn around a company that was really very close to going under, and I had a phenomenal experience that led me to be able to do what I do now. But I could have never done that if I wasn't investing in my capability, my confidence. And that's not an egotistical thing. If I can't see myself as capable, how is anybody else possibly going to see that? I needed to nurture that in myself to do what I do today. Okay, and that's despite all the people who said I wasn't capable of it and I couldn't do it. But funny enough, some of them had already failed at doing it. So watch who's around you, watch who's giving you feedback. Today is all about creating a positive viewpoint for yourself. So habits are going to be, once we have the vision, the key thing that's going to keep us successful. We want to create habits that support your success, and all 9 sessions are going to help you with that. I'm going to give you tools, I'm going to give you strategies to give you habits within the sales funnel, as well as with your time and with goal setting, of course. When you're absolutely certain that something will change your life, you will do it. When you're not sure, you get caught up and you don't take action. So again, when you're absolutely certain, you know it's going to change your life, you know it's going to have positive outcome, you're going to do it. You're going to take action. That's the thing. When you're not sure, you get caught up. And that could be a buyer presentation. It could be a script. So watch, if you're saying, oh, I don't know if I can do it, I'm going to tell you the results. I'm going to tell you how many hundreds of other people do it. But if you get in your head and you convince yourself you can't, you're not going to try, or you're going to do it halfway and it's going to be a mess. Hate to tell you. So try to learn it the way that you actually can model success and get results. So what are we doing today? Let's start to bring all the pieces together. At the top is the vision. That's what we're working on. I need the vision. I need to know what I'm working towards. Once I have the vision, what do I need to do? I need to nurture my belief in that vision, my ability to enact that vision, and my certainty that I can do it. And if I fail, so what? Go up and nurture another vision. Because here's the thing. Once you start to nurture the belief and certainty and you take action and you actually get a positive result, it becomes a way of life. Every single top producing team leader or top producer on any team I work with will tell you this is a way of life for them. Every single year we do the vision work that you're going to learn right here. And I have clients without fail every year say, I cannot believe it. It's uncanny. What I wrote out, what I planned for, it's exactly coming to pass. And when it hasn't, they got an amazing lesson that they actually needed in their life. So I can tell you all the top achievers I work with, without any exception, this is reality to them. And even for myself, I don't think about it. I had somebody up, I think it was a couple of weekends ago, but they were up to the cottage and I was talking about one of our friends and saying, well, you could enact this. They could, make changes. They could apply for other positions. And they said, but other people don't take action like you, Kathleen. Other people don't just do these things. You think it's normal. I'm like, but it is normal. In my circles, it's pretty normal. But the hard thing is, if you're not used to living this way, you don't realize how powerful you actually are. And you can think that I'm selling you something, but at this point, you already bought the program. I'm telling you, you're more powerful than you think if you actually believe in your vision and believe in yourself. So we need to have a vision for what we want. We need to nurture our belief and certainty, and we need to take action. The hard part is with systems, with the science, if you take action too soon and you don't have enough belief and certainty in how to actually use them, you might have a negative result. And the public is going to push back on you 10 times more. They're going to be much more effective than I'm going to be as a coach or a trainer, because they can create fear, or they can create that, oh, I'm not good enough as a realtor. And that's pretty heavy stuff, right? So the public can make people feel that way, and that's pretty disempowering. So if it's a system thing or a tool, you want to spend a lot of time here, like we're going to do in level 1, understanding the mentality and the language and how to use these different tools, so that when we take action, the scales are so tipped in your favor of having success, highly likely that you're going to get a good result. And the minute you do, you're going to reinforce everything else that we're working with in these training series. So really key. And once you get that result, of course, we're not done. We need to create a habit. And I know we love that 21 day, 30 days creates a new habit, but actually that research came from a plastic surgeon in the US who was actually studying recovery times. We know now all the most recent research on habits, no big surprise, you're looking at 4 to 6 months, which makes good sense. Like 30 to 60 days, you're starting to get entrenched in the habit. 4 to 6 months, you're starting to become that DNA. It's like brushing your teeth. I get up in the morning, I walk in the washroom, I brush my teeth, or I drink a whole bunch of water with apple cider vinegar and lemon. But then before or after, I brush my teeth every single day. It's just what I do. I don't think about it. That's what happens when we get systems or success and we use them long enough. It doesn't take us any energy anymore. And that's how top producers do so much more with less time, less energy, because it's just like breathing for them. They don't even think about these steps in the sales process. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's get back on target here. So your first exercise is one that you're going to partially do today on your workbook. So I will prompt you that anytime we have an exercise or a role play, you're going to have a screen up. So you're going to be able to pause. So you can actually do the workbook. I highly encourage you, if you can, do the exercise right there so it's done. You will get an email that reminds you to do it. But if you're already done with the video, even better. Those who come and take part live don't have that opportunity, but you certainly do. So our first exercise is that you're going to want to go in your workbook. You have a list of questions that are asking you to promote the vision of your future. So some of the questions, if you feel a little bit unsure about them, keep in mind, just be open. And I know one of the questions is, what did you love to do as a child? And for some people, I just want to make sure that I'm very transparent, that I do understand that not everybody had amazing childhoods. Everybody had difficulties, but some people had greater difficulties. And I've definitely had people come up in training and say to me, I don't want to answer this question, or this kind of evokes, pain, or it's upsetting for them. So I would say, look back at what you actually love to do, or what you took from it that you would have loved to do. Look back with a positive frame if you're comfortable with doing that. It's not meant to do anything more than that. It's just meant to take you back and see, hey, what did you naturally love to do? And maybe that leaves some clues, because we need to get your creative energy flowing so that we can do some vision work. So I'm going to let you pause, let you fill out those questions. So complete Inspire the Vision questions, and then I'll lead you to what you're going to do afterwards. So hopefully you had a chance to fill in all the questions and you're feeling good about them. You can go back and add to them later, but really we're creating a state of mind today, just like the NLP communication model. And that state of mind is that same state, like when you go to a conference or you get revved up and you feel like you can take on the world. The difference is we're actually going to create a plan for it. So we're going to make sure you walk away with a tangible plan to actually, roll this out. So our first task, you're going to notice there it says task number 1 and wow pages. At the end, I'll remind you, but wow pages are very important. Every single session that we run, you're going to have wow page items, which are action items. Wow is within 1 week. So what we know, if you attend a training program or you go to a conference and you don't actually take out the workbook or take out your notes or actually implement or take action on something, 99% chance you never will. So you have that 1 week time period before your brain goes, yeah, that's old news. Yeah, whatever. We'll do that later. It's not urgent anymore. So your wow pages are all within 1 week. Most of you on the online program will have weekly videos. So that'll work very well for you. That'll hold you into that time period. So our action item, because you've already done your questions, is to write a letter from the future. And letter from the future, again, is something I do with every client every year. If I don't do it, we do another process of visualization with the client. But the letter from the future is essentially we're writing a letter to ourselves. So if whatever today's date, just add another year to your date. So let's say it's September 1st, 2020. So we would put September 1st, 2021. And I would actually write a letter back to myself describing everything that came to pass over that year ahead of me. So I'd use as much detail as possible. You can have like colors, tastes, smells. You can have types of trips, types of cars, what you're wearing. I've had people put about being so successful they went to buy a suit that they felt really good in. They felt powerful in it and they felt like they earned it because they took the time to actually reach their goal before they ever purchased it. So whatever it is, I've had people write about getting married, getting engaged, having a child, buying a house, buying a cottage, expanding the team. I've had people write about so many things that were important to them. I've also had people write about things that were difficult. Having to have conversations with friends who weren't necessarily healthy friends anymore, having to distance themselves from some of their old habits that maybe weren't serving them. Who knows, maybe junk food, maybe it's alcohol, whatever it was, right? So people also were very careful to write about anything that they expected could be an obstacle. And I know it sounds like a downer, but planning for the obstacle is just as important or more important than planning for the goal. Because the goal, you're excited about it, but the obstacle is more likely to throw you off target. So if you plan for your obstacles and you plan that they're going to happen and you're going to overcome them, when they happen, you're like, yeah, this is no big deal, right? No big deal. It's okay. It's that, like that mountain out of a mole instead of a molehill idea. We don't need to make a mountain out of obstacles that are likely to happen. We can actually visualize what they are and how we got over them in advance and be more prepared. So Letter from the Future is integral for us because it's a vision process. It's a process of visualizing our future in a way that's optimal for us, but realistic, in a way that we consider all of those obstacles and objections that could come up, but we can actually see something that we can be hopeful about. And I know for some people, I've had people going through separations or had somebody ill in their family, and it can feel like a hard time initially to write the letter. The letter might be a paragraph, it might be 10 pages. The key is it's a kinesthetic exercise, which means that it's something that you're actually wanting to get your right brain involved with. I highly recommend you don't type it on a computer. You can if you want, but I don't recommend it at all. I highly recommend you sit down with a pen and a paper and you actually start writing. You know, dear whoever, if you can't write to yourself, I mean, I wrote to my sister sometimes when I first did it. And as soon as you write, what a fantastic year, so many things came to pass, or wow, what a great year for growth. You know, it wasn't easy, but I accomplished some things that I really wanted to do. You'll be surprised how things will just flow on the page. It's like somewhere inside of you, if you believe in a soul, you don't, maybe you're unconscious, whatever you want, somewhere inside of you, you actually know pieces of what's going to happen or what you want to happen. And you know the obstacles you might have to face. So I recommend just make it a creative process. Don't edit it. Don't write about just the amount of money you want to make. If that's part of it, great. But this is about you, your experience, your feelings, your fulfillment. That's what this is about. Make it a creative process. So it's similar to like doing a vision board, but this is a written letter. And we're writing a letter from the future, can be acquainted with the concept of bridging the conscious and unconscious mind. Because again, it's a visualization process. If you feel like it's a bit hokey, I will admit that when I first heard about this or first started doing it, I thought it was a bit hokey too. And coming from a psychology degree, I'm surprised I did, but my left brain analytic just took over. I was like, why would I do this? I can't create my future. I just totally dismissed it. So let alone, I finally wrote the letter. And 1 year later, they came to, we collected them. So we got them given back to us 1 year later. So they go to give me the letter. And I was actually really upset because over that period of time, I had written it 1 year, right? So over that period of time, I had gone through a separation. I didn't really think I anticipated it. It was quite painful. It dragged out for many years. It was very difficult. So they give me the letter and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I don't want to open this because I feel like it's going to have all these trips I wanted to do with my husband and the kids and all of these things. So I held on to that letter about 3 weeks. And I finally opened it and I couldn't believe it. I was all prepared. I prepared myself for 3 weeks for how awful this was going to be. And then I read the letter, and what was amazing, it had all the work success. It had all the trips with the kids. It had the time with the kids. It had everything. I didn't even say my husband's name once. My ex-husband now, but I didn't say it once, which to me, like, I thought, how uncanny, like, how's this even possible? And I still have the letter. I write the letters now every year. Sometimes if I feel a bit lost mid-year, I'll write another one. This year I did. In the summer, our company grew so quickly. I felt like I needed to do some grounding and put a new vision. But I had other people around me at that same year who put about getting an assistant to help them because they were feeling tired. They just didn't have a life, like they weren't taking any downtime. And the assistant had, you know, a name with like 3 letters. So they had the assistant show up. They said that buying a house, getting married, it all happened with those same people in that initial group. So what happened is year after year, when you keep writing the letter, all of a sudden, like I said, you're nurturing your believability, your certainty that you can make things happen in your life, which is pretty cool. So I highly recommend it. I'm going to ask you to take a leap of faith and give it a try. And if you have an experience like me, yeah, I thought it might be painful, but you know what? It probably kept me on course because I still kept focused on the other things that I achieved in that letter. So it's a detailed world where we have overcome obstacles and been honest with any interruptions such as doubts or fears that would pose challenges we need to overcome to reach our goals. Also the cost to our current reality. Sometimes there is a cost to my current reality to get where I want to be, you know, in a year, let alone in 5 years. We need to anticipate that. Right? What we're doing now, if I spent my time and energy the way I do now, I'd still be where I am now. We know that. It's a pretty common quote, I think. Are we going towards the future or are we avoiding disruption in the present? Am I saying I don't want to have those conversations or I don't want to commit that money because it's going to be uncomfortable? Or am I saying I'm so committed to where I'm going, I'm going to do whatever it takes? and for the right reasons, because it benefits me, my family, my friends, my life, whatever, for the right reasons. Can I actually say that? That's what true commitment is. You're not committed unless you're paying time, money, effort, and energy. That's when you know you're really committed to actually achieve something. So that's our first task in our WOW pages, is to make sure you get that letter done. I would recommend, if you're in a brokerage group, like you're watching this together, I highly recommend you write the letter, you seal it in an envelope, you don't have to share it, seal it in an envelope, put your name, and as a brokerage, I've had lots of brokers who actually keep it in a file and they'll hand it back to their agents 1 year later at the same date. And it's really cool because everyone gets that experience, and there's kind of, you know, some synergy and some camaraderie in it. It's quite positive. So if you have that option, you can do that. If you're an individual agent, put a reminder in your schedule. I hope you're using an electronic schedule of some sort. Put a reminder and file it away. And 1 year later, you get the reminder and you get the similar experience. Highly recommend that you do that. So again, I think I've already gone over that this is an extremely powerful exercise. Just to be specific again, we're going to write a letter from the future to today's self. So really watch how you're wording it. These are things that already happened. It's not, oh, I hope in a year this comes to pass. It's, wow, this has been an amazing year. I can't believe I actually got the chance to go on, you know, camping with my kids for a week. I can't believe I actually took the extra time in the summer, whatever it is. Be very specific. Add as many details as possible and take the proper time to write the letter. I don't know if you're like me, but if my kids are in my house, it's chaos. So I usually will write the letter when I have some downtime, or sometimes at night. Like I remember on Christmas Eve, wasn't New Year's Eve, because I hope I did something, I don't remember. But Christmas Eve, late, the kids were in bed, and I actually stayed up and I wrote the letter because I wanted to have that new year to look forward to and take that time for myself where I wouldn't be interrupted. So take some proper time, some down to quiet time for yourself, and focused on your most important goals, seeing the future again as optimal but realistic. And sometimes people say, well, how do you know the difference? I'm like, you know, when you're writing it and you're writing something, you're like, I know that's probably not at all going to happen. You know, it's maybe not realistic. And I do understand the 10 times goals. And there are times in my life where I do that, where I, you know, blow up the goal I want to achieve. But I look at it that it might not be a 1 year goal, but hey, if I'm on track at the end of the year, that I can do it within the year after, I'll take it. I'm good with that. So you'll have a sense of whether it's optimal, but also realistic. And that's important to keep you on track. So we're going to watch another video. I really love this one. Some of you may have seen it circulate if you're involved in Facebook or social media, but I think it's so very telling of how important it is to see our obstacles or our struggles, our adversity of actually helping us to be greater, to be stronger, to be more capable. I don't know about you, but I find the more things I go through in life, the more I know I can get through things. Like I survived all of those other things and I'm better for it. So I'm perfectly confident now when I have struggles to say, hey, what's this meant for? Like, how can I use this to serve me, my family, my clients? How can I use this to make what I can contribute better in my life? And I think that that's very important. So I'm going to let you guys watch this. I'm sure you'll love it. A great little clip.
There's something I want to tell you about the stress and how we have to look at stress, okay? And I think it's an important thing because many people have told me from my lectures it's the one thing they remember, okay? I was sitting in a dentist's office and looked at an article that said, how do lobsters grow? Well, I don't care how lobsters grow, but I was interested in it. And it points out that a lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside of a rigid shell. That rigid shell does not expand. Well, how can the lobster grow? Well, as the lobster grows, that shell becomes very confining, right? And the lobster feels itself under pressure and uncomfortable. It goes under a rock formation to protect itself from predatory fish, casts off the shell, and produces a new one. Well, eventually, that shell becomes very uncomfortable as it grows, right? Back under the rocks. Good. And the lobster repeats this numerous times. The stimulus for the lobster to be able to grow is that it feels uncomfortable. Right? Now, if lobsters had doctors, they would never grow. Because as soon as the lobster feels uncomfortable, goes to the doctor, gets a Valium, gets a Percocet, feels fine, never gets off its shell. So I think that we have to realize that times of stress are also times that are signals for growth. And if we use adversity properly, we can grow through adversity.
Okay, excellent. So after we've had a chance to watch that video, hopefully it kind of hit home that, often when we start to feel the pain of, changes needing to happen, most of us try to, not all, some of us try to retreat back. Like, I know I've definitely had those experiences where, things aren't feeling good, let's just put it back to how it used to be. But often when there's pain, when there's discomfort in our lives, it's showing us that maybe there's an option to learn something, to grow, to change. There's a reason for that. Maybe our pain, again, our adversity is actually helping us. So moving away from that for a little bit, we're going to kind of get into the next part of session 1, and that is to look at both our emotional drivers, our emotional goals, as well as our values. Because values and emotional drivers, they're really the most unconscious processes. They're the things that are most motivating to us, much more so than our conscious goals. This is why people set goals year in and year out and don't achieve them. Because consciously their brain is saying, yeah, I want to lose 10 pounds, or yeah, I want to sell double the amount of houses. But unconsciously, their values are saying, well, no, I want to spend more time at home, or I want to spend more time traveling, or I want to spend more time in my garden. Or for some people, I want to spend more time at business, even though they write a goal to spend more time with a loved one, a spouse, or their children. So values are extremely unconscious, and they're very much related to our emotions. So they're our most unconscious drivers, and they're going to really predict how well we do with moving towards goals or with trying to avoid any change in our lives. So we'll talk about momentarily, but emotions are values. For some people, they're trying to resist any change, resist any discomfort. They're trying to just hold on to what they already have. They're motivated by not wanting to change. So again, when discomforts happen, or adversity or challenges at work, or with, a friend, a loved one, they just want to put it back because they don't want to have the difficulty sometimes of facing what they need to do to have a better work life, a better relationship, whatever, because they're too worried about losing what they have. So essentially, we have a huge part of the population who says, I can't risk building a bigger business because I'm too scared not to have what I have now. I can't risk losing that. And then you have another smaller portion of the population who's saying, I can't afford not to put everything into what I could possibly achieve, because how else would I know? I need to put everything into it. And this is why you hear sometimes that underdogs have an advantage. And in some ways they can, because if you're showing up to the game like you've lost everything, or you've gone bankrupt, or something happened and you feel like you're in rock bottom, really, you have nothing to lose. If you're like most of the population and you're trying to hang on to what you have, you're actually in your best time period to take a risk, to take action, to build something amazing. You have all that pent up energy from whatever happened that you can put towards building something great. And speaking of that, I want to talk a little bit about emotional drivers, because some of us, we set, if you're very left-brained and your values are very business, you probably set a lot of goals about making a certain amount of money, or about selling a certain amount of homes. And if you're very more creative or more relationship-based, more right-brain, you might be more about connecting with people and caring for them and helping them. There's no right and wrong of either. The power is in knowing which it is, because if you're very relationship based, you're going to feel good when you're with your friends. You're going to feel good when you stay home Sunday, and make breakfast with the kids and don't do an extra open house. That's going to make you feel good because those are your values. If you actually really want and need to increase your income, increase your sales, it's crucial that we connect what makes you feel good with what's also going to make you money. So how can I change things a little bit if I need to increase my income a little bit, but it's actually going to help me to have more time with my family at other times, on vacation, or it's going to help me make sure my children go to university or college. It's going to help me be able to pay for, someone's wedding. There's so many costs with children. I could bring up any of them. When I first learned about emotional drivers, the idea of setting emotional goals, I was extremely excited about it, because what I know is that we often attract opportunities, or we attract other people to us by how we're feeling. And so often in business, do we ever ask ourselves, how am I feeling about this? Am I happy? Am I joyful? Do I feel good about what I'm doing? And that's really important. It's not to say that you need to do a different job. It's to say that, are we looking for the happiness in our job and in day-to-day, whatever we're doing day-to-day in real estate? And we'll talk about this a little bit more in unique ability, a couple sessions in level 1. It's actually a really important part of our the energy that we bring into our business and our capacity to be successful. So what we're going to do is, there's a worksheet in your workbook that we're going to get to momentarily. And what I want you to do is think about the emotions you'd like to feel on a regular basis. How would you actually feel if you looked for opportunities to create those emotions every single day? Or some of my clients will look for opportunities to create those emotions every single time they see a client, or they interact with a client, or they interact with, again, friends, family, loved ones. How would your life change if you showed up and you felt more joyous, more happy, more fulfilled, more successful, whatever it is for you? And those emotions can be really different for some people. Imagine what your life would look like if you truly felt those emotions every day. The other thing is, we're about to do an exercise, and it's going to ask you which emotions really propel or have helped you be successful. And I am going to be really honest about the fact that there's many times in training where I've had, in fact, one training, the first time I ever ran this program, I had a gentleman stand up and very honestly say to the room, everything I've ever done to be successful has been propelled by other people's judgment of me and other people's hate. It's like nobody thought I could do anything. People have always tried to push me down. And eventually he used that energy, those emotions, to actually build his business. It got him through high school, it got him through university, it got him into a successful real estate business. And that is an amazing example of how we can use adversity and that energy to propel us forward. But if that's the case, there is one thing that we're going to need to look at. With values, again, some people are promoted by trying to resist the things they don't like, right? Whether that be loss, whether that be judgment, whether that be hate. And they typically have a more stressful existence. So we know there are many great leaders, like when you look at Viktor Frankl, who studied, how people found meaning, who were in the concentration camps, who went through the Holocaust as he did. He was a psychologist before and doing studies on meaningful work. So we know from these types of leaders that they're saying people were able to actually find success. The ones who came out of the concentration camps and were able to take all that tension, and actually gave them an energy to be able to slingshot back and create a new life, create meaning again, see happiness. So some of us can look at adversity and say, as much as you push me down, it's just like a coil. You can push me down and put all that pressure and all that tension, but the exact same amount of pressure and tension is going to be used to kind of rebound and even out the two energies, so to speak. So all of us have that option. It can be a really healthy way to deal with adversity. But over time, there comes a point where you need to stand up. And I know lots of people have went through this. You stand up and go, okay, wait a minute. I don't have parents telling me, no, you can't do that anymore. I don't have other people. I'm an adult. I have to make my own decisions. What are you going to use in a healthy way to feel good and promote yourself towards success? So I know that there are a lot of people kind of thrive on other people thinking they can't achieve, and that's okay. So when you do this worksheet, if for you, it was negative emotions that you feel like stress or pressure that have helped you be successful, there's no right or wrong. It's just an awareness of, hey, if I feel too stressed in my business, but it's stress and pressure that help me succeed, how can I be aware and tell a different story here so I don't need to burn myself out or feel so overwhelmed or so anxious throughout my business? On the other hand, some people will say, I always felt loved, I always felt confident, I always felt encouraged, and they have very different emotions that are going to have propelled them in their business. So again, there's no right or wrong. The key is, how do you feel that's helped contribute to your success? How do you want to feel more that would give you more energy and more success? And if you're very left-brained, trust me, I can hear you going, it doesn't matter how I feel, it has to get done. It doesn't matter, I have to go through and get these numbers. That's not true. How you feel still reacts, it still affects your brain, it affects your physiology, it affects how you function and how people interact with you. And we're in the real estate business. It's very, very important to allow ourselves, even if we're left brain or right brain, if you're analytical, task oriented, or you're relationship based, the key is how can we connect both? Right? How can we connect our mind with our heart so we're congruent and we're experiencing things as we go through this, instead of just showing up and being like, okay, I'm doing real estate today, I'm just going to get through my day. What if you were being a realtor? What if everything about you loved what you did? What if you were showing up and that was part of your experience, not just somewhere you were putting hours in? That's connecting your mind with your heart, and that's a very important piece of what we're doing here with visualization as well. So I want you guys to take a couple of minutes in your workbook. Your exercise 2 is, are you emotionally inspired? You have some questions there. You need to figure out what emotions, and I would say, I'm going to put up on the screen, and you have it in your workbook, I believe, as well, but it will be on the screen, some examples of emotions. Don't just pick the ones that you want to feel. Pick the ones that are true for you. This is private in your workbook. Nobody's going to see it, because we're creating that state again that's going to have our vision. We've done our questions to get creative, to create our vision for our future, our letter from the future. We're now doing our emotional drivers. Then we're going to do our values, our most powerful, most unconscious drivers. Next week, when we talk again, we're then going to do our goals. And why? because now I'm hoping you're going to be aligned, that you're going to have written this letter that's creative, that doesn't have outside forces or bills or, this vision of what you feel like you have to do. It's your own vision. Then you're going to talk about, how do I want to feel? Then you're going to look at, what do I value? If you actually stay connected with those 3 resources, you will write very different goals for yourself. And you will, in fact, make sure that they're internally driven instead of externally. So when you achieve those things, you don't feel like some people in real estate where they, kill themselves for 5 years to get a big award. They walk across the stage and go, why the heck did I do that? I compromised my health. I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel happy. It's not to say they shouldn't have gotten the award. It's that they're not aligning their values. They're not connecting what getting that award meant to them. And that's empty. That's not good. We don't want to go there. That's burnout. That's unhappiness for most people. So please take the time, fill in the exercises in your workbook. So you're going to identify the 3 specific emotions that are most important to you and that represent the life of your dreams. What are they? Why are these 3 emotions important, and what would your life look like if they were a reflection of these emotions? Now, again, for some of you, it might say, what emotions have helped you to be successful? I want you to think about that too, because it'll give you a clue as to some of your values and how you're motivated. And here are the emotions. We'll leave them up on the slide on your screen, so you can take a look at those as you fill out the workbook. Okay, so we're going from emotions, and now we're going to go into the last part of what we really need to accomplish today. We'll talk a little bit about SMART goals, but not a lot. I'm just going to kind of put it out there to prep you for next week. So values are the last very important thing that we need to deal with today. Values, again, as I said, the most unconscious of all systems and processes. I like to use the Walt Whitman quote that says, I find myself on the verge of a usual mistake. What that means is, as much as I can try to retrain my mind and I can go into personal development, I can do all these things, every so often there'll be a remnant. There'll be a little thing like, what's that? Who's that person? Where did that come from? And it's because those unconscious drivers, they're so core to us. They're so deeply ingrained in us. It takes years and years and years to change them. And some of them are what makes us who we are. They're the good of us and the bad of us. There's duality in values. For every value that serves you, it has a light side and it has a dark side. There's duality to everything. For some of you on this, you might be very strong drivers. You might be very business oriented. And if you're like most of the strong drivers that I work with, that's a double-edged sword. I have people who say I'm so strong and I hate it because it makes me so good in business, but at home it's just a mess, right? They have difficulties with friends and family because they're so strong. Well, what makes their life a gift is also what can make their life have pain. Values always have duality. Even the value of valuing happiness. For some people, it's like they feel super low when they're down because they value feeling happy so much. They'll sacrifice things for that. So there's always an up and a downside. So we're going to talk a little bit about values because they're really important. If you ever work with a psychologist, you work with a life coach, you work with a marriage therapist, a couples therapist, you will spend time working on values. Whether they call it values or not, it's so very core to everything we do. You can spend 2 years working on values with a life coach. They may not, again, be called that, but that's essentially what you're doing because you're trying to get to know yourself. So values, the unconscious mind is the goal getter, right? The conscious mind is the goal setter. So my conscious mind says, I want to sell 100 homes next year. And my conscious mind says, well, I'm going to decide exactly how we're going to go there. And because you said you value your family and you want to spend your time, energy, and attention over there, every time you need to spend more time to sell another house, I'm going to say, no, we're still going to go to the birthday party. We're still going to go to the dinner party. We're still going to show up for every single thing. And I'm going to make your map to getting that goal be really, really hard. Because values often, whether you realize it or not, they're going to dictate our income level. And that can be harsh. That can sound hard for some people. If your top values are income security, family, aesthetic, like appreciating the arts, being outside in nature. I know for me, I love, people are shocked. You like camping, you like being out there. Yeah, I love all of that stuff. It's so vital for me. So if you have those things that are your top values, though, you notice I didn't say business. I didn't say recognition. I didn't say notoriety. I didn't say wealth. All of a sudden, your values are saying you need to make a certain amount of money. You don't need more. So you need to make a certain amount of money. And once you've done that, all your energy, time, your efforts, your money, your focus is going to go to the things you really value in life. So does this mean you can't make more money? No, of course not. It means that you need to connect it. So how is making more money in my business or being more efficient going to actually give me more of what I want? That's when you're going to have a powerful goal. If you don't realize it, your values will sabotage your goal, and for good reason. You're lucky, because the people who override their values, what happens? They get anxiety, they get depression, they get extreme burnout, they feel empty, they feel apathy in life, right? Because they're forcing themselves, again, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do real estate, even though everything I care about has nothing to do with what I'm doing today. That's not a healthy place to be. So if you're lucky and your values override your goals, your values will win, because that's what's actually important to you, and there's nothing wrong with that. So what we want to do is figure out what your values are and set up your goals so they're connected. That's the name of the game here. So your unconscious mind, again, is the goal getter. It's the GPS system. It's going to say either you're going to go straight for that goal because it's in alignment with your values, or you're going to have a massive painful detour if you actually want to achieve it. And your conscious mind is the goal setter. It's what's saying what I want. Values are emotional goals. They don't need to be rational. They don't need to be real. Sometimes the most abstract values are actually the most powerful for people. Spirituality, religion, education level, sometimes things that are, morality, sometimes things that others see as very abstract can be really the biggest driving forces for some in their lives, because they believe in adhering to certain things in their lives. So they don't need to be rational. They don't need to be real. They don't need to be logical. Really important. Don't beat yourself up about values. The power in them is knowing what they are, not judging them. You don't get to take a cat and say, well, I'm judging you because you have all these stripes and I don't like stripes. Well, the cat can't take the stripes off of it, right? That's nothing to do with it. All you can do is appreciate the beauty in the stripes, because that's the way the cat was made. There's nothing wrong with our set of values. The problem is judging them and misinterpreting them. So we don't need to do that. At times, again, the most abstract values have the greatest influence, and all emotions are translated into logic. So if you want to believe something's true, what we'll do is all of a sudden we'll feel a certain way. I feel this isn't a good thing. Now I'm going to go through and find all the facts to back up that it's not a good thing, but I'm going to feel it first. Or I feel something is a great thing. I really want to do this. This feels great. Now I'm going to find all the facts, all the logic to justify it. That's how our values speak to us. If something feels good and we want to do it, it might be in line with our values, unless it's something that, spontaneous and we just want to escape, but that's different. So we're going to have indicators with how we feel, and we'll back them up with logic, and that's going to be our values underlying. Values are what drives our actions. They're already driving your actions. So here's two tales. So I can have two different experiences with coaching clients. One is they do their values, what you guys do here, exactly what we do with every single client we ever work with, because it's very important. So they do their values, they determine what they are, they send them in to me, and I start to read them. I'm like, okay, so we've got like family, again, number one. We've got travel. Okay, I get travel. We've got, like friends, romantic partner, like their husband, wife, partner, whatever it is, spouse. And then way down lower, it's like business or wealth. And meanwhile, I'm talking to somebody who, has a team that sells 100, 200, 300 homes and who works 80 hours a week. So the minute I see that, I know we have a problem, because like I said, there's one of two things happening here. Either they feel what their values should be, and that's what they put on paper, because they're judging themselves and they're being judged, and they feel, well, that's what my values should be. I have a family, I can travel, my values should be this, and they write it down. So that could be true, or the other could be that they believe the more money they make, the more they're providing for their family, and that makes sense as well. That could be an alignment. But what often happens, unfortunately, is we judge ourselves, and we say what I spend my time and energy and attention on isn't right, and I know what I should be doing, so I'm going to write down what I should be doing because I don't want to come across as a bad person. This is where values can be painful for some people to go through them, particularly sometimes parents who are very business minded and very focused, and their values are very in business. This happens to dads too. I've had it more with moms, but I know it happens to both, where they'll have a really hard time because they'll want to put their kids first, or their spouse first. Meanwhile, again, they're working 80 hours a week. You have a really good clue to what your values are, because you'll naturally already be playing them out. And here's how. Where you spend your time, your energy, your money, and your focus. Your time, your energy, your money, and your focus. That's what you value. You're going to naturally give those resources where you value most in your life. And that's going to give you a clue to what your overall values are. We'll have to do a bit more work, but that's a clue. So if you're spending 80 hours a week in business and you're saying your values are something totally different, you're either miserable, completely burnt out and you're really not a happy person, or those aren't what your values are, but you don't really want to admit it, right? So I'm going to give everybody totally free reign here that you can write down whatever you want. You don't need to share your values with other people. My values, for me, I'm very high on business values. Does that mean I'm not a great mother? No, but did I take years going through other people saying, oh, why do you want to build your business? Why do you want to sell that much? Why do you want to build, coaching company? You are making more than you need to survive. Well, because my values are in contribution. They're in knowledge acquisition. I want to give back. I want to create a legacy of the things that have helped me in my life. And now I'm okay with that. And I feel good that my children get to see that example. But years ago, when I didn't understand this, I was at prey to all the people around me because they could easily make me feel bad, right? Like, you should be at home more, or you shouldn't be doing that with business. They didn't choose to see all the amazing things that my kids and my family had because I had that dedication to business. And I've had that conversation with so many parents who have really beaten themselves up over it. So I want to say, if your number one value is notoriety, it's notoriety. Own it. Because the minute you own it, people don't have power around you. It's like, yeah, I value that. It's important to me to have recognition. Who cares where it came from? Maybe you want to know, maybe you don't. But the key is, there are people in our industry whose number one value is notoriety or recognition, and they have sacrificed like years of their lives to build their business, and they do amazing things for their community. They give back, they contribute. So that notoriety that some people judge is also the thing that allows them to really serve many people. Again, like a Steve Jobs example, somebody who's so committed, like almost to the point where it's obsessive on building their business. Look at those values. Look how judged he's been, for good or bad, for a relationship with his children, or with, their original mother, his child, with his spouse. But on the other hand, he was so committed to what he wanted to do. His values were in alignment with the business. That's where he chose to spend his time, his energy, and attention. And people who really want to build something amazing, they lose out on a lot of the other things that are available, to somebody who maybe doesn't want to have as high of aspirations. Think about it. If you want to do something amazing on that high of a level, you're not going to be at all the birthday parties. You're not going to be at every Christmas celebration. There's always a cost to what you want to achieve. We only have so much energy. So I hope I'm kind of doing two things. I'm explaining how important values are, kind of, and I hope also that I'm giving you a bit of freedom to say, hey, maybe it's a painful thing to face what our values are, but don't feel judged by it. You don't have to put your kids first. You don't have to put your business first. You don't have to put yourself first. You can put whatever's true for you. That's totally fine. And you're going to have a worksheet to help you figure it out, which is pretty cool. So I'll talk about that momentarily. So values also, there's another way to look at them. All people, as I started to talk about, are driven by pleasure or they're driven by pain. So again, think of it like two sides of the wall. Wherever you're sitting, you're probably in a room. So one side of the wall is pleasure. Think of it as growth, right? Going towards what you want. The other side of the wall is pain. So again, some people are so focused on avoiding that pain, avoiding that loss, avoiding losing anything more of income or opportunity that they have, that they'll never take the risk to turn and face the pleasure wall and say, hey, what if I invested in something? What if I could have something more? They won't take the risk in losing what they have to have something better. And this is the majority of our population in North America. So that's an important thing to know. In sales, 80% of the people who actually buy your service or product, whatever it is, most of us are in real estate on this, 80% of the people are going to be doing that because you solve a problem for them. They feel that you're going to protect them and you're going to reduce the pain that they're going to experience, or their exposure to pain or unsafety, whatever, in their lack of safety, in their life. 80%. Only 20% are going to ever buy a product or service, even my product or service, coaching program like this, because they just think maybe it'll make me better. Only 20%. 80% will never sign up for coaching until their life trying to build a team is so painful and such a mess that they can't take it anymore. Then they'll sign up and they'll do amazing things, but it's only 20% who will say, wow, this is something better. I'm going to invest in it. Think about that, right? So you have the 20% that are towards pleasure, that are investing and making themselves better. Remember that circle, the vision, the certainty or belief, the action, the result, the habits. You only have 20% running that program, but it's actually available to all of us. When we work with clients in real estate, that's different. We're not going to try, we just want to understand their programming. We don't want to alter it. But for you guys, I really care about you having the best possible options for success. And I will say, we know People who are promoted by pleasure, they do have, again, less stress when they're moving through life. They're more able to build their visions within their life with greater ease. And to me, that's really important for all of us to have that awareness. I know I wasn't brought up knowing that. Maybe you were, but I think it's important. So some people are driven to action by pleasure, some people by pain. So again, 2 walls. Really pay attention to which wall you're looking at, because the world will look very different depending. So the pleasure is the knowledge that the action you're about to perform will give you more happiness, more time, or more money, right? Maybe more health. I'm going to throw that one in. More happiness, more health, more time, or more money. Maybe more energy too. I'm going to put my own definition. And pain is that we're prone to action by fear of pain, afraid of losing our job, our house, or our loved ones. So very different existence. The pleasure wall is, again, stop talking about what you don't want and say exactly what you do want. That's the pleasure wall. This wall is, yeah, I do want that, but. So we just don't do anything because we don't want to face all those buts that could happen. But over here, it's, hey, forget that. Just focus on what you're actually trying to create. Values motivate and demotivate, and they justify our behavior. Because remember, if I feel good, if I feel safe over here, because I feel like I'm protecting my family because I'm not taking this risk, or I'm protecting my future, I'm doing the right thing, I'm being conservative, I can justify my behavior all day long if it feels good for me to be safe and not take risks. So you really need to be aware of these programs because they can mess with you a little bit and you won't take the action that you actually need to take to build your life, your business. So values, I already went over. One is not better than the other. It's just more effective from person to person. Values are like a unique fingerprint. So when I do this training live, like you'll see in the rest of the sessions, we could have, 50 people in a room. At some points I've had up to 90. Some of them have the same top 5 values, but they'll all have an interesting, unique ranking. They won't rank them the same. It's your unique fingerprint of how you go through life. Those motivated by pleasure, again, will have a far less stressful existence, but most are apt to respond to the factor of fear. And we know that, so we want to just be aware of it. You can absolutely spend time to condition yourself, reprogram yourself. I know everyone hates those words, but you can spend time actually getting yourself away from this. People can 100%, that's when you see people say, I changed my life, I built my business. Like, what happened? What changed in you? This happened. They switch their mindset towards something of seeing themselves as capable of creating what they want. And it's extremely important work. It'll really change the outside factors. So we have an important exercise that we need to do. So exercise 3, you need to go through the worksheet, but I want to give you a little bit of feedback on how to do this because I'm not there with you. So I want to give you all the exact techniques, advice that I'd give you if you were here in the room training with me. So you have a determining your values worksheet. Don't overthink the questions. If you're sitting in a room with your broker, your manager, or you're in a room with agents, don't ask other people's opinions on what your greatest accomplishment should be, for example. So you have a spot there to put your personal, your business, and other, whatever you want, greatest accomplishment. If somebody else tells you what they think your greatest accomplishment was, guess what they're telling you? What they value. And this exercise is all about figuring out what you value. So for years, up until I actually created this company, Kathleen Black Coaching and Consulting, I ran another coaching company, but ironically, that was never my greatest business accomplishment. I showed up, I had never run a business. I found out the business was very, very much in debt for a small business at the time. I didn't know that till I already took on responsibility. And I turned the company around. I got rid of all the debt. We created content. It was actually a very strong company. It started to have a much more positive reputation. And I'm very proud of that. But did I put that as my greatest accomplishment? No. And why not? I'm not sure, but I know every single time when they said, what was your greatest accomplishment in a business or like an educational level, I put one specific thing. When I was an undergrad in university, I was in Carleton in Ottawa. I initially went for journalism, which is kind of ironic considering what I do now, but I didn't like it because I felt like it was too intrusive and I just didn't like that. I didn't like making people feel uncomfortable to try to get information. It was just the opposite angle for me. So I ended up to move into psychology and women's studies, which I loved. Interdisciplinary, all about analytics, the mind, love that. So we decided, a group of us as undergrads, that we would submit an application to present at a graduate conference at Concordia. And it was a huge graduate conference. It would mean speaking to thousands of people. It would also mean being published in an academic journal. And when you're in university, that's kind of cool. Like I never really thought, oh, actually be published. I still have it, but we'll get onto that in a minute. So we end up to think it's really funny that, you know what, we're going to apply. Even though we're undergrads, we're going to send in our application and we'll never get in because they got, I can't even remember, they told us at the time, it was like tens of thousands of applications from all over North America, it might even have been international, but I don't know, to go to it. And it's a very small fraction of people who will get to attend. So sure enough, it's a group of us. We had created a video about, voice and speech and, in culture and media and entertainment at the time. So we create this video, and sure enough, they didn't see the video yet, but they saw our written submission. They send us a letter. It wasn't email then. They send us a letter and they invite us to come to the graduate conference. So we're like, oh my gosh, like first of all, I've got a small child at this time, like one and a half. I'm a single mom. I'm going through university. I'm like, how are we going to go to Montreal and do this conference? And I've got 4 other people as part of my group. So we did a bit of fundraising. We went to Montreal. We went to speak at Concordia. And I remember before speaking, I thought I was going to be sick. I was like, there's no way. It's like a huge, massive auditorium. Like there's thousands of people. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. So we come out and the other people seem totally calm. Like they're fine, no problem. So I go up, I say my whole thing, goes fine. I come off and all the friends like in the group are like, I can't, what are you talking about? Like you were so natural. It's like you love speaking. I thought you felt sick. Like I did feel sick. I didn't think I'd even be able to get through it. But I got up and I was so passionate about what we were talking about. It just like, I think something just took over me and I just loved it. So they ended up to show our video. Again, we were published in the academic journal and I really had to peel it back and go, well, what is it about that story? What is it about that makes me so happy for my life and for things I've done? And when I started to keep saying, what is it about that story? What's important to you about that story? And that's what I'm going to recommend you do. Whatever you put on that worksheet, what's important to me about that? When you get an answer, peel it back another layer. What's important to me about that? From all the things I could have picked, why did I pick this? Because you're going to have a pattern. And I certainly have had a pattern throughout my life. And those values were so entrenched in that experience. So it presented a challenge to me, massive challenge, because first of all, we weren't even supposed to be there because we were undergrads. So it was a challenge. There was freedom. We got to go and do something. I was away. I was a single mom. I was in my 20s. Kind of nice to go away and have that time. There was a bit of rebellion because, yeah, we weren't graduates and we were kind of saying some things at the time that we thought were edgy and controversial, but we were in university, so who knows, right? So it was pretty exciting for us. So it presented a challenge, it presented rebellion, it presented freedom, and it presented knowledge acquisition, which is what my whole life is basically built upon. So I was able to feel all of those things in one scenario. And when I peel that back and I look at my life, those same values have built this business, those same values turned around the other business, and those same values have also gotten me in lots of trouble or given me every opportunity I've ever had in my life. So once I saw them, I have a huge amount of freedom because I understand those values. So when I pick opportunities or I pick friends or I spend my time on vacation, whatever it is, I know what to say yes to and what not to because I can see if it's a positive thing in alignment with my values. I know I'll feel good. I can make extremely quick decisions on what I'm going to say yes to, whether it's community involvement, business involvement, whether it's parenting choices that other parents may not see eye to eye with me on. I know my values. I know who I am. I know how they're impacting my children. I believe in a positive way. So I have other people having different opinions is of no consequence for me. And I think that's important to all of us because no matter what you do in business, no matter what you do in parenting and relationships with friendships, there's always going to be people who think you're doing it wrong. And you know what? Maybe in their world with their values, you are doing it wrong, but those aren't your values. The minute you know your values, you will know what you're in alignment with and to feel good about. You will also know when you're making choices that are not in alignment with what's important to you. So the key, it's so freeing to understand that. So I hope for all of you that this exercise makes you think. Some people tell me it's confusing. I've definitely had some people say to me, when I signed up for this course, I want the scripts, I want the presentation. They had so many testimonials and feedback to take it. They're like, I didn't expect it to be so heavy. Like, I didn't expect you to go into all this. And they feel heavy, literally. And sometimes they'll start to take out their phone or they'll start to like go to the washroom more, whatever it is. Because if you're not ready for something or if there's something that you feel like you have to process, sometimes doing this work will make us want to escape. It's like the fight or flight thing, right? So I encourage you, just be open, be kind to yourself, be easy on yourself. If you feel confused, I felt really confused when I first did values. Confusion means that my brain's saying, hey, I thought the world was this way. Maybe there's a couple of other ways. Maybe I'm making room to see things differently. And there's nothing wrong with that. So you want to go through and fill out your full determining your values worksheet. Then once you do that, I want you to go down through the worksheet, as I said, and each example you wrote, say, what is important to me about this? Why did I pick this? And keep asking yourself, And once you get to the final answer, like because I feel safe, because I have security, because I feel like I have enough money in the bank, because I feel like I'm going to have wealth, whatever it is, because I feel like I'm growing, because I'm mastering something, put those words on the left side of your worksheet, because the next thing you're going to need to do, your next worksheet is ranking them. And that's where it gets a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to let you go through and do your determining your values worksheet. I'm going to also ask you to try to rank them, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of feedback on how to polish them before we end off today. Because next time when we talk again, I'm going to have you read through this all really quick to get you back in the state of mind. So you want this polished and done as best as you can before we talk again next week. Okay, so get your determining your values and your ranking done in your workbook, and then we'll be back. So put it on pause momentarily. Okay, so at this point, you should have done, again, you've done all the questions on determining your values. You haven't had outside input on what I should put. It all came from you, and don't overanalyze it. Whatever first comes to mind, probably right. And we filled it out. We've taken on the left side all those words that when we kept saying, what's important to me about this? Why does this matter? Right? We've taken those and we put them as values on our ranking sheet. You do have a sheet in your workbook giving examples of values. So if you feel like, okay, I'm putting this, it keeps coming up, but I don't know what's called, go to the example. But I don't recommend you go to the examples and pick the 10 you like. That kind of defeats the purpose. You have the worksheet to find out your fingerprint, not what you think you want it to be. It doesn't work that way. It'll backfire, okay? So now that you've ranked your values, I want you to do a couple things. Number one, are any of them duplicated? Like, have you written things that actually should be under one heading? Like financial security, I find can be one of those. Like pay off debt, have enough savings, be able to retire, be able to pay for the kids' education. Those are probably all under financial security. Okay, so if you start to have examples like that, put them together. That's okay. So how many are duplicated? If they are, let's chunk up. Okay, and like I said, categorize them into one thing that represents that for you, because those examples are just indicators of that value. It's not really the example that we're looking for. And do your goals, outweigh your values. This is where it gets tricky. So again, if you figured out that, wow, like my top 5 things, even my top 10 things have nothing to do with, wealth or wealth accumulation or business, notoriety, even contribution. Like my top values are not financial, and people are always surprised. Like you do so well in what, like in real estate, I did quite well very quickly, but it was never about the money. Once I made enough money to pay my bills, and being a single parent, we're pretty good at making sure we can, keep a low living threshold, me and Warren Buffett, make sure that we don't have to pay a lot to live. So once you have enough that you're like, yeah, okay, like I can pay everything, I can do the vacation, I can pay some to the kids' RESPs, all that stuff. Once that's done, what's driving you? My belief, these are my values, was the more I learned, the more I knew, the more value I could provide, the more money I would make. And that served me my whole adult life until now. So I didn't have financial, but I did have knowledge acquisition. I had mastery. I had a need to master my craft, to really bring as much as I could to the table. And that allowed me to make more and more money, because for me, it wasn't about the money. It was, if I'm not growing and I'm not doing better, I feel dead. I need to grow. And that brought, more money year after year. Okay, so that could be something that associates to income. But if you have nothing like that there at all, then you probably need to ask yourself, what do I need from my business so that I can connect these values and I can respect the business as a vehicle to get what I need for these values? You can be an amazing realtor, and really your number one thing is whatever it is for you, your family, your side business. Maybe you love photography, writing, whatever. Maybe you want to write a book, who knows? You can leverage real estate to help you serve those other values. You absolutely can. But if you show up and you despise real estate because every second you're there, you feel like, I wish I was traveling, I wish I was writing the book, I wish I was doing photography, that's when you'll be miserable. I've seen this. There was a specific client who had this, where every time she went out to work, she was in real estate, every time she went out to work, the kids would cry. So the kids would cry at the door, they'd cry when they started to see her getting ready. She would feel so absolutely guilty. And she would say every time that she was in real estate, like out of the house for real estate, she felt like she should be home. She felt so guilty about it. Every time she was home, she felt guilty that she should be working. And she beat herself up about it. And what happens? People around us mirror us. Right? When our clients disrespect our time, when they disrespect our advice, they're mirroring us. They're saying, hey, I don't see you valuing your time, so I don't either. Or they're testing us, one or the other. So her children, her family were actually mirroring her. So what we did, we spent some time with unique ability. What did she love to do? What energized her? What made her feel good? We spent a lot of time with values. What do you really value? And true enough, her business and her family kept flip-flopping. They were right at the top. So we had to align it. So finally we said, what does the business give your family? What does your family give the business? And all of a sudden she came back and she set a goal with the kids to go, for her, I think it was Disneyland, doesn't matter what it is, but saying that, you know, one of her children was in competitive dance, her other child was in rep soccer, like they were doing things that required an income. She was the sole main breadwinner for the family. So she came back to it and said, okay, the business is actually giving my family all of these things that they really want that they couldn't have if she wasn't working to that extent. And she didn't work a crazy number of hours. Her goals were not, you know, the super highest on the team ever, because she wanted that balance. That was her version of success. So when we went back and she said, okay, if I'm able to see the business and respect it for what it's giving my family, I can teach my children to respect what a business can give us too. So she went back, they set a goal that if she hit her goal in real estate, that they would go on a family vacation to real estate, or not to real estate, no, to Disneyland. And they started to have conversations that, yeah, you know, mommy is going to work because that's how we get to do dance. That's how we get to do soccer. That's how we get to have more time together. That's how I can come volunteer in your school sometimes, because I don't have to work. I don't work a 9 to 5. I can have that flexibility. So she started to use her values as a way to talk about and interpret the business. And how amazing. She didn't need to leave real estate. Not at all. She's a great realtor. She needed to find what made her happy and tell herself a new story. And the story was true about what business was actually doing for her family. Sure enough, within a couple of months, kids weren't crying when she left anymore. She was happy. She wasn't beating herself up, and she was a better realtor. She wasn't feeling bad with her clients. She started to actually see, wow, you know, I want my kids to see that I like what I do. Do you want, you know, do we want a legacy of hating going to work? I don't know if that's a great legacy for our children. So these values can really help us. So again, if your value ranking doesn't really support your goals, I don't recommend that you go, okay, I can't, that's it. It's not in line with my values. I recommend one of two things. Either A, really ask yourself, why am I setting this goal? Why does this matter to me? Because you know what? Maybe at the end of the day, it sounds good to say you want to double your business, but maybe you don't want to. I know, yeah, I'm a real estate coach, but it might be true. Or maybe you really do want to double your business or grow it by 25%, but you don't know why and you can't find the motivation. Find the story with your values to your goals so that you can actually make it a positive thing. So that when you have to get out of bed Sunday and you have to leave and not do the breakfast and do the open house and get ready for it, you're not saying, oh, I wish I was home with the kids. It's like, okay, these are the extra time I need to actually build the business. Those are the different choices that somebody who has a business 20% higher would actually make. That's sometimes, not every Sunday, of course. You might have holidays, right? So I want to make sure that you've taken the time to go through this and really polish them, because next week when you show up, we're not going to write any goals that are not in alignment with your values. That would be totally wasting your time. I challenge each and every one of you that if I had have started this training and said, write down your top 5 business goals, top 5 personal goals, I challenge each and every one of you, would some of them be goals that you've never reached and you write down again and again and again every year? Why does that happen? Because it's our conscious mind. It's the goal setter. It's not the goal getter. It's not in alignment. It's just what we think we should want. We act on the things we care about, the things that we do really want. That's what we want to set goals about. Because here's what's dangerous. Setting goals you don't act on, you don't achieve, is the reverse of that diagram I gave you. It's teaching yourself that you don't listen to yourself. You don't act on your dreams. You're not capable. And that's not a powerful thing for us to spend time with here. So I want to make sure we're not doing that. So to end today, there's a little bit, I want to plant some seeds on SMART goal setting. You're not doing this week. I'm just planting the seeds. So setting goals for success. SMART goals is creating a goal with an aim or an end in mind. Next week, we'll get a lot further into SMART goals. In level 2, we actually help you incorporate the NLP dynamics of a well-written goal. We include NLP SMART goals in here. So if you've just practiced Stephen Covey, we're gonna have that, but we're gonna also have in addition the NLP principles, just so you know. So values, again, your logical goals are stronger when they stem from emotional goals or values. So even a SMART goal, if it doesn't stem from a emotional goal or a value, it's not that strong. It's not going to be that powerful for you. You can accomplish anyhow with a strong enough why. Your values are your why, if you can get down to that side. I know some people say the why that makes you cry, and I never liked it, but I guess I get why they say it, because it's like the core of you, what's really true, right? We always have an emotional reaction to that. And combining your values and goals increases the likelihood of achieving these goals, and that you are, again, intrinsically motivated, which what today is all about. So the SMART goals, you have this in your workbook just to fill out what they are. Again, we'll go into them in much more detail next week. I'm just going to list them. So when we set goals, we're going to make sure they're specific and they're simple. This is not for values or vision. This is just for your goals. So you're going to write your letter from the future. Don't worry about any of this. That's creative. This is when we polish it into a plan. So one is the fun creative work. One is the disciplined habit work. We need both. Remember, I said art and science. I was fair from the beginning. So S is specific, and is it simple? M, is it measured? We'll talk about how to measure it and how not to measure it next session. Is it meaningful to you? Please try not to write anything in your letters and your values and your goals that are because somebody else wants that for you. That's great. That's their values. Today's all about you, or your life is all about you, however you want to see that. And A is achievable, as if now, which we'll talk about next week. That's that towards wall, towards what we want, that pleasure, that growth, right? And is it good for all areas of your life? Is this goal actually going to help all areas of your life? Is it realistic? And is it responsible or ecological? Ecological, this is an NLP value. And that's, is it not just good for myself, it's good for my home, my family, my community, my province or state, my country, and the world. Is it ecological? Is it actually good? Is it within the principle that all things are connected, right? Good or bad. And is it timely? Is it toward what you want? And we will talk about the difference of as if now and toward what you want. So those are our basic SMART goals. For yourself, if you're with a group, I highly recommend at the end of all of these sessions, take some time and share your takeaways and ask everyone in the room, because some personalities will never put their hand up. But the takeaway will help you to be like, yeah, what did I take from today? Set your brain. This is good. I'm going to look for this in my life now. I'm going to put this into action. That's that NLP communication model. And our WOW pages, within 1 week, you have a couple jobs to do. Number one, you need to write your letter from the future. I didn't tell you to pause it and write it today, and that's for good reason. You need a decent amount of concentrated time. So before you come to next call, or next training, sorry, not call, I'm used to coaching calls, you need to make sure you've done your letter from the future, you've sealed it, and you've taken the time. Make that commitment to yourself so you're not behind next week. And you've ranked your values and you polished them. So if you didn't complete it today, go back. Make sure you feel like they're ranked properly. Might take you, an hour, maybe two for some people, contemplation. So give yourself a bit of time. And again, be kind to yourself. Be nice. If it's hard, if it's confusing, that's okay. It's all right. Just take it for what it is. And other than that, next session, we will be taking this to the next step, which is goals and habits and taking action. And that's where we talk about the power of belief and transformation. So I want to thank you for joining me in this first session on our online program. And I do want to remind you the following sessions are going to be live. So please remember, there's pros and cons to that, and we weighed both. I really wanted you to have the energy and the experience of somebody who's in the training facility with us. I think that's important, and this allows you, if you're with a group, to do all the exercises. If you're on your own, you can role play. When I learned my buyer presentation, I role played it with my kids, I role played it with my family, with my sister. So it gives you the experience of, hey, what extra could I take out of this training? Okay, so it's been my privilege to be able to have some one-on-one time with all of you watching this at home online for session 1, and I hope you enjoy all the rest of the live sessions that you're going to get for level 1 and get to experience the whole thing. All right, take care, have a great week, and make sure you're successful with your action items.